That wasn't good.
It was not. It was not.
USA 0, Costa Rica 2. Welcome to the Total Soccer Show. Quick take, hot take. We've hit record as soon as the whistle went. It may even have overlapped.
Yep.
I'm Darryl Grove. He's Taylor Rockwell.
Hello.
So there'll be a long take, a long review where we'll rewatch it, we'll figure things out. This is the immediate reaction. What are you feeling, Taylor? What are you thinking?
What I'm feeling is that this is the first time an introduction hasn't had you like inhale and then make the noise. You were like mid-making noise when I hit record, which is indicative of how we both feel.
I've sort of been making that noise throughout at least the second half of this game.
Yeah, and I want to say usually I am the more emotional of the two of us, especially when it comes to the United States. Mm-hmm. This is the most emotional, and I would say most upset I've ever seen you. You were pacing. You were literally pacing at one point.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of frustration, a bit of just that feeling of this is all falling apart.
Yeah.
Am I overreacting here now? I'm maybe going too far in one direction.
I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's falling apart, but I would say that pretty much everything that could go wrong seems to have gone wrong for the U.S. tonight. I think that starts with the lineup and the formation. It feels like people didn't know the game plan. I mean, from the first 20 minutes we saw most of the team gesturing and talking and trying to figure things out, and it seemed like nobody was on the same page in a way that maybe makes it seem like nobody had gotten enough of a briefing.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard to say that about a British arena team, but maybe that is what happened.
Yeah.
And the reason I say things falling apart is I've been really into the idea of, at home, if we try and be on the front foot, we play this sort of like 4-1-3-2 or 4-4-2 where you have a lot of attacking midfielders. And we started off with, Bradley a little deeper, but Johnson, Pulisic, Nagbe, and then two strikers. And I really wanted this to be the future of the US men's national team when we go for it. And I feel like, again, we'll rewatch and we'll know for sure, but I feel like what we learned tonight is if you come up against an organised and quality team like Costa Rica, and there are even better teams in the world than Costa Rica, but an organised and quality CONCACAF team like Costa Rica, that is not going to fly.
And I think it's also not going to fly if you underestimate, like at best, and don't understand at worst. Because I think I said this to you in the first half that this reminded me a little bit of the Liverpool 4 Arsenal 0 game that we talked about recently, where it felt like Arsenal went out thinking, Liverpool are going to sit deep, sit back, get men behind the ball, and then counterattack. And so Arsenal expected to have like lion's share of possession, be able to do what they wanted, and instead Liverpool went at them, and Arsenal just weren't prepared. It felt like that in the first half for the USA, that they thought they'd have possession, they thought that they could play Michael Bradley as a number 6, put 5 attackers forward, and everything would be fine. And instead, consistently, Costa Rica played through the midfield, put the U.S. under pressure, disrupted passes, disrupted play, and you see the result 2-0.
And we've talked about this Costa Rica formation in the past. I'll do it like a quick primer/primer now. It's this 5-4-1, but that's really adaptable. So the wing-backs move forward, and like Ruiz and Bolaños can go wide or come inside. So they can clog the middle, they can clog the wings. It's like they've figured out a way to cover as much ground as possible in as efficient a way as possible. And it's on the opposition to sort of find a way to figure that out. And the US absolutely failed to do that tonight.
Absolutely. And I think the US failed pretty much across the board. It is like... It is shocking to me that, I mean this sincerely, I think Graham Zusi might have been the best player for the United States tonight.
Apart from that one slide tackle that we sort of like both inhaled deeply as he was running up because we knew it was coming in, it maybe should have been a penalty kick. Yeah. Apart from that moment, I actually think he had one of his better games for the US at right back.
Yeah, and I think it's partially that, and it's partially that everybody else had at least one moment where I was like, what are you doing? Because I thought I really enjoyed a lot of what Josie Altidore did. I know some people were frustrated by his lack of movement, which I don't agree with.
I saw happy with Josie Altidore.
No, but I saw plenty of movement. I saw plenty of heart. I think we saw too much heart. He gets a stupid yellow. He maybe could have gotten more, and I think he
misses the Honduras game,
but he misses the Honduras game, and so I think you got to take points off there for that. Same thing for Clint Dempsey, who comes in, tries to have an impact, but lets it boil over, does something stupid.
He got lucky that elbow didn't connect. In the end, it ends up just being a shoulder that knocks someone down, but he swung the elbow, wasn't looking. That could have hit someone in the face. That's a red card. That's a longer suspension.
Yeah, but I mean, I can keep going. I mean, Bobby Wood was anonymous. Fabian Johnson looked like he is.
That's harsh. He was running in behind a lot. He was on the end of a couple of good through balls.
I think maybe then that you're in a position to like uniquely disagree because you remember stuff, but I would say I don't remember like anything specifically like, oh yeah, Bobby Wood, he did that. Like I remember a couple link ups here and there, but I can't tell you specifically one thing that I remember being like, oh, he did that and that was really good.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what I mean more so by anonymous. And I mean, same thing for Fabian Johnson, who, to your point when we did the preview, he's played 10 minutes in the Bundesliga. You were like, you don't start him. You start Paul Arriola, who's proven that he can hustle and lock people down and handle the physicality of Costa Rica.
It's been a long time since Fabian Johnson played, aside from that 10 minutes for Borussia Mönchengladbach, where they conceded to Augsburg. It's been a long time since Fabian Johnson played any soccer, so I'm really surprised that he went 90 minutes. When we did our preferred starting 11s, I did not have him starting.
You talked me
purely,
into it.
And I'm a big fan of his, but purely on fitness and match readiness. I mean, so again, like Bruce Arena, obviously knows, the coaching staff obviously know, they've seen him in practice, they must have thought he's ready to go. It turns out they were probably wrong, but it's not as if he looked sluggish in practice all week and they still started him. I can't imagine that that's the case.
No, and I think a big part of it, the commentators Ian Dark and Taylor Twellman talked about this, that the United States handed it and then retracted like 4 different substitute pages.
Yeah.
So I do wonder if maybe...
He said the fourth official apologized as well, so it's maybe a problem with that.
That was when Jordan Morris was supposed to sub in after the goal, I think, and then there was like chaos. The fourth official didn't get it right in time, but I think the United States changed things a lot based on what happened. I'm guessing that Fabian Johnson was going to come out, and then things really went south, and they couldn't afford to take off an attacker for an attacker. They had to take off a defender, move Fabian Johnson in there. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, and I think it's especially frustrating because when we looked at it, like we were both like when we were doing the preview talking about who has to play right mid between Fabian Johnson and Darlington Nagbe, that like neither one of them has looked very good there. Suddenly, Christian Pulisic goes and plays right, which is a place he's comfortable. Darlington Nagbe comes inside, which is where he's comfortable. Fabian Johnson, this is going to work. This is going to be great.
Didn't I say this is the jigsaw that's going to have to be figured out by the US men's national team between now and the World Cup?
Yeah.
And what we saw tonight, I think, was a failed attempt.
I mean, yes. I mean, like, yes, 100%. It was failed. And with that in mind, I have to say, I thought it would be tough to ever see a game in which Christian Pulisic looked as bad as he did against Cuba. We have seen it tonight. I thought this was probably the worst I've ever seen him look.
Yeah, I agree. I think he also kind of started off confident. You saw him making some runs, beating some people down the right, getting a couple of crosses in. There may have been a penalty on the Kendall Waston pulling down Jose Altidore after that Pulisic cross, but you really saw his game deteriorate as we went throughout, right? I mean, I was calling for him to come off 10 minutes before he did.
In the final couple minutes, sorry to interrupt you, but we're both emotional, so it's going to happen on the Quick Take Hot Take. But like in the final couple minutes when he went on that run, he went on a run, and that run starts with him basically dribbling at a defender, he dribbles into the defender, goes off the defender, then goes off Pulisic so it stays in his path. Then he like stumbles over his feet, and I think at that point I said, if this ends with him losing the ball and then conceding a foul, this is his night in a nutshell, and that is exactly what he did. And that's what it felt like. He just kept trying to do things. Nothing really worked. Sometimes it was because he tried something and it was just like an inch off, or a player didn't make the run that he thought he would. But a lot of the times it just felt like it just wasn't clicking, and maybe he was trying to do too much.
Here's what I want to do. I don't want to turn on Christian Pulisic, because I think it's kind of our fault, not specifically the Total Soccer Show, but US soccer fandom, US soccer media. I think we kind of straddle those two things in a weird way. Really getting super excited about Christian Pulisic and hyping him up. I mean, there was I didn't read it yet, but there's the Grant Wall story about like how he's the next big superstar waiting to happen.
Posed to take over the US or whatever.
And then I believe, I didn't watch it in the end. We may watch it before the big review. There was a Pulisic cam tonight. It feels like we've gone a little over the top.
That was way too much.
With the Pulisic worship. And that's like, imagine being him and knowing there's a camera following you all night. Like, I want to make, this is maybe a weird argument to make, that was probably not helpful to his performance, because he would have known about that. Someone's going to tell him. If we know, he knows, right? There's a camera on him all night.
Yeah, I mean, like, you think about the other people who've had that, and like Zidane when they made the movie about him.
21st century portrait.
So let's all just calm down. But I did say to you that I do wonder if, and I think we're going to watch some of that footage, I do wonder if you see him getting man-marked a lot in this game. And I do wonder,
man-kicked?
Well, that's the second part. I do wonder if maybe there are a lot of little like off-the-ball like kicks and like little shoves, little type, like just stuff that would be enough to put you off.
Guzman stamped on his ankle in the first few minutes. No, it was Nagbe. Sorry, it was Nagbe that he stamped on.
It looked like Guzman stepped on Christian Pulisic.
It's Calvo or someone got him. He got.
He got a couple times. I'm guessing he's going to be bruised.
I'm going to guess more than that. But I'd expand that out to the rest of the US team.
Well, but before we get to that, I want to say, so you were like, I don't know if that's what you thought I was saying, but like I wasn't saying we should write Christian Pulisic off.
No. I'm making that clear right now.
I think it's okay.
Not everything I say is in opposition to what you say.
Well, it came after me going on and on about Pulisic having a bad night, so I just didn't want that to be the case. But I did want to say, though, that like I think it's more than fair to, if you've been singing a player's praises and you've been impressed by a team and then they have a very bad night, it's fair to, say this was a bad performance.
Yes.
Let's talk about what went wrong, and I think that's what we're trying to do.
I also think maybe I think back to our preview, right? I mean, it wasn't a bad preview. I think it's, as good as our recent work. It was overconfident. We didn't we did say Costa Rica's a threat. Urenya, is this really good sort of guy at finding space, and it's good, the press will be a problem. But we never really said there's a good good chance we lose this game. I felt very confident about the US winning this game, and we spent most of the time talking about sort of attacking options.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
Well, I would say that I think a big part of the reason why we felt confident is because like we know Costa Rica. Like we know they're a very good team with very good players who have a very specific game plan. And like we talked about in the preview, we talked about in the Gold Cup review and preview that like they're going to be direct at times. They're going to look for the long ball over the top. They're going to try to catch you on the break. They're going to exploit opportunities. They have the technical ability and know-how to exploit those opportunities. And if you give them the chances, and if you set yourself up in a way that is not going to work against that system, you're going to fail. And I think we've just both thought that we were a little bit past that. That the United States, not to say that, we're going to beat Costa Rica every time, but that Bruce Arena would know this is what they're going to do. We're going to set ourselves up in opposition so that we can capitalize on the mistakes that they're going to make as a result and get a result. And tonight they didn't do that. They didn't set themselves up to win.
I've got two thoughts in my head, and both of these will have to be tested against sort of when we rewatch and figure it out. The first one is that I think of the US as having like a home attacking formation that has all these attacking midfielders in it plus two strikers, and you use that against weaker opposition. I think in hindsight, we should not have classified Costa Rica as weaker opposition. Like maybe this is a formation to go against Trinidad or Panama maybe or Guatemala. You know what I'm saying? It's maybe against Costa Rica we should have gone with another defensive midfielder alongside Michael Bradley to toughen the US up. And the reason I say this is my second point, which I think is the bigger one, is that I think Taylor Twellman called this out as well. Casey Keller called this out at halftime. The US kind of got bullied. There was a lot of the US getting fouled, getting kicked around, and not being able to sort of give a little back. And I think if you have someone tougher in there, like a tougher central midfielder alongside Bradley, we can start to fight back a little.
See, I disagreed with Keller there, and so I guess I disagree with you now. Because, I mean, first off, I would say that I don't think that, like, Costa Rica have never won a hex on U.S. soil. Like, they've never won a game against the United States.
Right.
So I think it's understandable to think, okay, they're going to be a bit more defensive. It makes more sense to have an attacking lineup. So I get that, but I still think I'm with you that, like, but you still have to recognize that it's still Costa Rica who can do all the things that they can do, and you've got to set yourselves up accordingly. Now, I think if you're the team with a lot of possession, you're going to get fouled more. And so I can't really fault the United States for, like, not getting feisty earlier, but I think that was part of the Costa Rica game plan. And I think the larger thing that I found frustrating was that you knew that was going to be their game plan. Taylor Twellman talked about that at one point Nagbe kind of waited for the ball to come to him. He gets fouled, and yes, the United States gets a free kick. But that's what Costa Rica are trying to do. And so I wouldn't say that, like, it's frustrating for me that they didn't foul them back or shove them around or, like, kind of put themselves at that level of physicality, but it was more so that they didn't anticipate the physicality and, like, adapt to it and set themselves up to deal with it.
I agree with that, but I'm going on more of a lineup type situation. Like, now in hindsight, after watching this game, I think if you repicked it, you would say, instead of Nagbe alongside Bradley in central midfield, and you know how much I love Darlington Nagbe, I think I would keep him in the team, maybe sacrifice one of the wide guys, get Nagbe out wide, and have someone like Dax McCarty or even Kelly Acosta or just someone with a bit more fight in central midfield, someone who's going to be more up for that physical challenge.
Yeah, okay, I'm with you there. That makes more sense, and especially
Kyle
because
Beckerman.
you said that in the second half.
Well, he was just the first, like, combative midfielder that came to mind.
And to be fair, I know you were like 98% kidding, and maybe 2% like, can we get him in there? Can we get him in? I mean, Josie Alto is going to be suspended. You never know, Daryl. You never know. But no, I think that makes sense, and it also makes sense because that is a pairing that has played together before, and it just seems like maybe with that you'd have a bit more familiarity if you had Bradley and Acosta. Then Bradley and Nagbe, who have obviously played many minutes together at national team level, but maybe not in those specific roles. And again, you could just see those moments of, like, sometimes Bradley was the furthest forward player. We don't see that, but I think it's because they were trying to be aggressive in the press. So but nobody knew when to really press forward.
So that's the other part of it, right? The press is almost like kind of a technical, tactical kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right? Aside from the fighting thing that I was talking about, the physical thing, you can, like, maybe lose that. But if you get the sort of tactical thing right, where you press Costa Rica and don't let them play out, maybe then you've got a chance. We never did that. There were so many times when the press, like you said, looked really disorganized. No one quite knew who should be stepping where, and they broke through it.
Yeah.
They broke through it many, many times.
They did, and I want to say, though, that, like we're kind of being maybe unfair just in the sense that we're focusing on, like, the more attack-minded players when it also doesn't, like, if you look at the way we previewed this game, we talked about, like, I said Tim Howard's going to be back in. You know he's going to command that back line. Jeff Cameron, he's going to be the one to be the vocal leader and step up and make sure everybody's on the same page. And then it was Tim Howard who probably could have done a lot more for that first goal. And not even talking about the save that he maybe could have made, but even the clearance
kick,
long barely makes it past midfield.
So when I saw it first time, I was like, yeah, that didn't go very far, but it's a goal kick or whatever. But then when you see it again, it's a kick from the top of his own box that barely clears the halfway line. And I think you can see. So we'll break this down more when we see it, right? But we might as well mention the goals while we're here. This is the first goal, the Orenya goal. Fabian Johnson is going deep for that kick, and it doesn't get there.
Yeah.
That's how Costa Rica are able to easily head it back in. And I believe Orenya is in between Tim Ream and Jeff Cameron, who've spread wide in anticipation of the US being on the front foot.
Yeah,
right,
exactly. And so
then there's a big hole for him to drive through the middle.
Yeah, and so I know, I think Tim Ream was getting a little bit of blame for this one because he was spread so wide.
Yeah,
I think that's a bit harsh. I mean, you could blame him for other moments because he definitely got stripped at one point and didn't look as sharp as we would like to see.
In a one-on-one defending kind of way, he didn't do the best job with Orenya in this moment.
I mean, no, but I think he did an okay job. I really do.
He forced him wide, but
he slowed him down and forced him wide.
Enough, is what I'd say.
Well, that's where we can maybe go back and look at what Tim Howard could have done there. Because I think he put him at an angle where it's either a brilliant finish from Orenya or maybe Howard could have done better. But then the second goal, I mean, we were excited to see Jeff Cameron back in there, command the back line, but also we've talked about this so many times that he has that ability to carry the ball up out of the back and kind of connect
and
some
split
passes.
the lines, right? He'll split through midfield to find a forward. And I think that's essentially what he was trying to do. He was trying to play a long ball along the floor, picked off, back there.
I mean, I wouldn't even say picked off. I'd say played straight into the feet of Guzman, who then plays it right back for Orenya, and it's a goal, and it's 2-0. And here we are. And so it just, you didn't have any of those spots that you needed some sort of stability and solidity. Instead, it just kind of consistently felt like when push came to shove, the United States was going to get pushed.
And not pushed back quite enough until it all boiled over at the end, right?
Yeah.
Just to check ourselves a little bit, is there any chance that the US was kind of unlucky? Like, for example, there's the Christian Pulisic shot, I believe, that's deflected by, I can't remember, a Costa Rican defender, and somehow Keylor Navas pulls off what's a really incredible save. Like, he changes direction, gets a hand and then a foot to it. Yeah. That could have been the equaliser right there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it absolutely could have.
I guess it's not luck to have Keylor Navas, though, right? That's part of why your team's good.
Who was it was it Neil Blackman who made that comment that's like the biggest drop-off in soccer?
Or it was the Yanks Are Coming Twitter account. I think it was Neil Blackman, but he said that there's no bigger drop-off in soccer than Keylor Navas to Patrick Pemberton.
And he might be right, because we look at that save and it's ridiculous. And then, as you mentioned,
Navas moved, so Pemberton would not have.
The eternal statue? Yeah, he doesn't do a lot of moving, does he? And then, and to your earlier point that, I think Kendall Waston probably could have been called for a penalty early in the first half.
But to me, that gets you. Actually, I think Costa Rica were very smart tactically. We talked again about how they set themselves up and the way they move that shape. It's kind of a changeable, a changing shape that's always adapting to the situation. It's very effective. But also, they seem to it's almost like they profiled the referee beforehand and knew the exact line they were allowed to go to. There's so much pushing and shoving, and the way Kendall Waston took Josie down but got away with it, and the way they fouled Pulisic and Nagbe and Johnson. They fouled our attacking players, but never enough to get themselves in deep trouble. I think they sort of calibrated it perfectly.
I mean, it was
congratulations to them.
It was the move, that tackle specifically, or that foul from Kendall Waston that wasn't given. That was like a veteran fouler's move. He basically, he knew he was beaten. He knew he was beaten. That basically that ball was coming in. It was going to be at the near post. Probably was going to be a goal.
It's a Pulisic assist, Josie goal, 1-0 USA in the first half.
And so Waston steps across, makes contact, brings down Josie Altaro. But I think the way he does it, it looks like he's trying to make a play on the ball, and maybe Josie's held up waiting for the ball to come in, and so then Waston's making an actual play on the ball, and it's Josie's fault. And I think, but that's because Waston kind of reads that situation and recognizes exactly how to foul at that exact moment. So to your earlier point, yes, I think that there are some moments where if it is Patrick Pemberton goal and if that penalty is given, suddenly it's 2-2, things look very different. But that's the way soccer goes. And I would add that I know a lot of people felt like Clint Dempsey was fouled, and I know we now have the new Clint Dempsey meme of that face where he was just sitting with his arms out staring at the referee.
Yes.
And I'm saying not a foul for me, not a penalty.
Was it Johnny Acosta?
I think it was.
Number 2,
it was
right?
either that or Borges. But
so my memory is that he gets his hand on his shoulder.
It was Acosta, you're right, because he had just come on, I believe. Yep.
Okay, so he gets his hand on his shoulder and starts to pull a little bit, and then he releases, and then Dempsey goes down as he's releasing.
And I think Clint Dempsey.
So again, that's Costa Rica calibrating the foul perfectly.
Yeah, because when I first saw it, I was like, arm across, under it, to the extent that it was underneath the armpit around to the far shoulder is how he had him, and then it was arm across, he definitely pulls him down, and then you watch it for the next 3 seconds, and you're like, oh no, he let go, he knew exactly what he was doing, and Clint Dempsey being the veteran penalty drawer,
Yeah.
thought, oh, he's pulling me down. I might not get to this, but I can go down, and he's obviously pulling me down.
It was a
and
fake
then
out, right?
as he starts to go down, that arm comes off, and suddenly you realize he probably didn't need
And
to fall there.
it wasn't a penalty.
No, I don't think
right?
so.
Like, it's not fully illegal to like get your hand under someone's armpit in
No.
soccer.
I mean, no? Oh, wait.
Anything else before we end this quick take, hot take, and we get sort of deep in the weeds, ready for our longer review?
I mean, other than I will say, like, I still think the United States is going to go to the World Cup. This is the first
What's the
time.
table look like? I haven't seen. So we genuinely turned the TV off as the whistle was blowing. There might have been an extra 10 minutes we don't even know about.
Yeah, I mean, could have been. I believe the United States is third level on points with Honduras, but superior goal difference.
That's with Honduras winning tonight.
I think so,
Yeah.
but I think that was the live table they showed us as the game was ending. Could be wrong there. We'll know more on the full review. But I want to say though that like this is legitimately the first time in as many years as I've been watching soccer that I can like legitimately remember that I've thought, are we not going to the World Cup? Like really feel like there's a chance, and it's a frightening reality that. And maybe it's a good reality that you kind of got to get knocked down to get back up again. I believe Chumbawamba, thank you, taught me that one at an early age. But it's just a strange world to be in that the United States finds itself in this position, and a lot of it is their own doing.
Well, it makes the next 3 games exciting, at least.
Sure.
Yeah, starting Tuesday, away to Honduras. That's a tough one now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, should we wrap this up and get ready to rewatch?
Let's do it.
All right, yeah. If you thank you for listening, everybody. If you want the full review, it's going to be out. It's going to be at least a couple of hours while we rewatch and then get back to it. Look for it late tonight or early tomorrow morning.
Mm-hmm.